Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Chaotic Neutral with me, Sabrina, and also my co-host, Artemis.
What's up,
How are you
guys?
doing?
Good. I'm doing great. It is a beautiful sunny morning here in Santa Monica, California, and no place I'd rather be than doing a podcast with you, Sab. What's up?
Aw, that's so sweet. Me too. Well, yeah, honestly, it's the same thing. We've been through some insane times. 2020 just, keeps throwing punches at us. We're rolling with
Jesus,
it.
yeah.
But I am really excited because this week we have the LCS coming back. How are you
Yes,
feeling?
we do. Thank God. I mean, I've been bored in the off season, but lately it's been fun just prepping for the season. I think that we've been working for a little over 2 weeks now and getting ready for the season. So I'm very one track minded on opening weekend against 100 Thieves and CLG. Super, super excited for both those games. I don't want to read too much into like strength of teams or strength of scrims or things like this. You hear a little bit about like who's strong and who's not, just because players love to talk, which is unfortunate. But at least in NA, the players they love to talk. So I'm feeling confident going into the weekend. I think I would be regardless, just because of the quality of our practice has been so good the past few weeks. And yeah, I think all the players are super excited and ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if anything, I think almost every player in the LCS is just ready to start playing again. Like for us, at least we were like in playoffs. We made it like right to the end weekend.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, they were they were off for a month before us, so they've really just been chilling for a very long time.
True, true. It does kind of stink that we're not back in the studio. I know that there was a State of the League podcast with Chris Greeley, or like a live show that came out a few days ago, and they did talk about when we would maybe get to be back in studio. And they were saying that there's like a chance that we could be back for playoffs, but nothing's like guaranteed. So, and even if we did, there's probably not going to be fans. I guess there's a chance, but likely not. So, I don't know. It would be fun to be back on stage for playoffs. And it's something that I think everybody's kind of looking forward to, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a state of a lot of things, right? Like not just even having fans or playing on stage, but like what is Worlds going to be this year? Like how does that look like? So we'll just wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I have international travel is, I guess, always risky with COVID, but at the same time, if it is going to be in China, I know that they're really aggressively attacking their COVID problem, and I think that because they're so centrally planned, they typically can have good responses to things like this. So I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. That's what I'll say.
Cautiously. That is a good
Yeah.
answer. So, with the LCS and LEC coming back in, we saw two different hype videos. Which one is your favorite?
Ooh, okay. Well, which one's your favorite? I'm gonna let you start because I can't say it yet. Which one's his favorite?
Okay, I think LCS wins it out for me personally.
Okay.
Just because there was just so many like self-referential things that were really
Mm,
cute. The history that was involved in Legacy was like a big part of that video, and I thought it was a lot of fun. And obviously, I'm a little biased. Us cutting up an Immortals baguette and then lighting it on fire was kind of amazing. Not gonna lie.
I didn't get the Immortals part. I didn't even see that.
Yeah,
I just saw the
they're a
flamethrower, but that's
baguette
cool.
because of their French
Ooh.
flavors, which I thought was like really cute. And then yeah, we burned them to a crisp, so that
Did,
was
did we
exciting.
did we do them dirty last split or something? I
I,
don't know.
I don't know, but there's
Uh,
also like a ton of other fun things, like
yeah.
the guy who like comes in a jersey and comes out in a different jersey, and
Mm,
the 40-minute Dyrus microwave meme.
oh
God,
my God. So
some
many
old
memes.
old school stuff. So, what about you?
I really enjoyed the LCS one just because it's like the so much nostalgia for me.
Hmm.
Like I was a fan of like League esports back in like season one in Freak's basement, So I'm
Yeah.
like the as OG as it gets when it comes to the League esports fans. So I really appreciated like all of
Hmm.
those references and everything like that. But I think that at the same time, there's a lot of people who probably were missing a lot of this stuff, especially like newer fans.
Hmm.
So many of those memes were like 4 years old, I think, or more. So I'm not sure it like had the appeal of like as wide an audience, but I like the art style. Like I like the music. It was definitely new, and I think that that's cool because all you see on Reddit is people like, oh, it's going to be the same hype video with the
Yeah.
cityscape and all that. So I liked it because it was like different. But at the same time, like I thought LEC's was pretty hyped too.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I can't really pick a favorite,
Yeah.
but I think just because like I'm NA biased, like I'll pick the NA one.
Exactly.
But I'm not sure there's any reason other than just for the nostalgia that it brought me.
Totally get that. I am totally the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, coming into the LCS and LEC, all these brands are like clamoring to make their like sponsorship and partnership announcements,
Yeah,
um, right before the season, so they can get on the jersey, so their press isn't like leaking anything. So one of the interesting ones that I wanted to point out today was Mad Lions and the Kappa streetwear apparel kind of collab. What do you
I
think about
saw
like
that.
lifestyle and esports like meshing closer and closer together?
I mean, it's definitely like a natural marriage, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that so many esports fans like streetwear, and they kind of like, or even if they don't, they're starting to experiment with things like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
do think that there's like an intersection between gaming and fashion and streetwear that's pretty like organic. Actually, it
Mm-hmm.
seems not forced at all. It just seems like these like groups of people, at least there's like a lot of overlap, which I think is awesome. Um, I wasn't too familiar with the Kappa brand before I saw the Mad Lions announcement, but it's like a no brainer, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody endemic to esports, or at least endemic to like Twitch esports, is going to like see that brand and
Mm-hmm.
instantly think of the Kappa emote, right? Which is like there's got to be like a word for that in marketing. I'm not an expert, but like whatever that is, like it's excellent. Whenever like
Yeah.
your brand can be like associated with something so sticky and so like universal, that's like the Kappa emote, like that's a huge win. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge win for Mad Lions that they're partnering with a brand like this that has that like factor to it, whatever it is. So I was excited for them for sure. But I'm not an expert when it comes to streetwear and fashion like you, so I'm curious to see what you think because like this is very much like your like this is your lane.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's actually really funny that you bring that up, like the whole Kappa emote thing, because
Yeah,
that is the endemic standpoint, right? Like that's what
yeah,
fans are thinking. But like for me personally, I follow apparel and it's a pretty popular sportswear brand that's kind of come
okay,
into streetwear. It is quite funny because the logo is like two like sexy ladies like back to back, and like people, it's just like imagining like people thinking like this Italian sportswear brand is like the emote is actually pretty hilarious. But yeah, you're right. There is a natural marriage right there. So there
yeah.
is some excitement there, and I hope to see like a little bit more of integration. Personally, as a person who's excited about apparel and excited about esports, to see that come together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think as esports teams get better at doing like the call to action or better at activating with these kind of sponsors, like
Mhm.
they'll add more value. And like I think it's really easy to track something like merch sales as well. So like hopefully they'll get really good data, and then hopefully that data will be able to drive sponsorships or similar sponsorships down the line. Because like we said, this is something that's very very like I guess we're passionate about as
Mhm.
esports fans. So it's cool to see people accomplishing this for sure.
For sure. So this is kind of my hot take question, though. Did you like the jersey?
What if my hot take answers I didn't even see it?
Yeah,
Can I
Google it
can I
real quick.
Google it? Bad
For
Lions
the
Nutrition.
people at home, take your time. Maybe
Maybe
our
we'll throw it up on
editor
the
Devin
screen or
will or
something.
someone will see put it like right here. But
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty. It's clean actually. It reminds me of a soccer jersey, very
yes.
much, or football. Excuse me for my European watches, but it very much has those vibes to it, and I love it personally. I'm a huge fan of global football. And this is like it looks excellent. I think the color scheme is great. I love the lines, the way it breaks in the middle. Yeah, huge fan. Wow, they killed it. What do you think?
Wow, I have like the opposite take of you, which is
Really?
hilarious. Yeah, I mean, but that's good because I like to appreciate that you have like a different stance
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this.
yeah, sure.
For me personally, I think it's a little lazy.
Lazy. Okay, like
Yeah,
minimalistic kind of
there's a
like,
difference
or
between
just
like purposeful minimalism and
okay,
lazy. Like for me, it reads
sure.
a little lazy. Also, I don't really appreciate the blue. I don't think that's what I think when I think of Mad Lions, right? Like you think of like the royalty, the golds, like they have. I would have liked to seen that a little bit more predominant in the jersey. Um,
Isn't royal blue and gold just like a classic like royalty
yeah, it's
combination?
classic. Everyone has
Yeah,
blue and gold. I'm pretty sure a
yeah, true.
podcast is blue and gold too. It is the
Facts.
classic esports color. It's blue and gold or black and red. And
Reminds me of like Brazil's jerseys from like the 2012
mhm,
World Cup, right? It's like it definitely reminds me of that. But
yeah.
now that you mention it, I 100% agree that like it's nothing groundbreaking, like it's nothing
Yeah,
revolutionary. Like it's definitely been done before, but
safe. It's safe.
it's safe for sure, absolutely
Yeah.
safe. That's a great word for it. But maybe that's just I'm outing myself as having bad taste or something.
No,
But
no,
I
no.
was a fan. I liked it.
I appreciate the class. The thing is, I think being safe is better than being bad. So like I
Mm,
respect that. And the thing is, it's like with Kappa too, they are quite they they stick to their brand, and it is a lot of like color block, like loud colors. Like it's not
Yeah.
outside of Kappa, so like I don't think it's terrible. I just I want esports teams to be a little bit more revolutionary in the future, obviously for me personally.
Yeah.
But it's cool, it's safe. But speaking about like the LCS and the LEC and how all these sponsorships and partnerships are coming about, you know, with all of these happening, we're culminating to the summer split, and I really wanted to talk about like what are your top things that you're looking for during this next couple of months.
I want to compete. I'm looking forward to competing. It's been too long. I'm such a competitor. Like I'm really not happy unless I'm like trying to win something. So just
Mm-hmm.
having the season back and having something to be striving for, having a
Mm-hmm.
direction, is just so big for me. It's big for the players too. So it's just been such a blessing to get back to work and be
Mm-hmm.
helping these guys and motivating these guys, and it's been super fun. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing the other teams and how good they are too. Like I've been very much focused on ourselves in our practice at the start of the split, and I think that's we're seeing the fruits of that labor because practice is going so well for us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's some teams that made some moves, and there's some teams that didn't make any moves. And I think like the teams that I'm most interested in would be TSM, and we can kind of go
Yeah.
through these after Team Liquid, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, and I don't know, like we can throw in Dignitas because I think that they're funny. But like those would be like the five like teams that I think are kind of like interesting because they either like made changes or they didn't make changes and kind of like have these high aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
But what about you? Like, what are your kind of like teams that you're looking at, or like what are you sort of like looking forward to in the start of the
Mm-hmm.
split?
Yeah, for teams I'm looking forward to, definitely TSM. I think it's going to be a hot topic throughout the entire split just because of the rosters change they made and the
Yeah,
all the kind of drama that happened in the off season. I think that they have a lot to prove, and I think they're going to be really working hard to prove themselves right. Because if this team and roster fails, that is going to be a big detriment not only to the brand itself but to the players themselves, and they have a lot on at stake here during this split. I think another one is Team Liquid, right? Like, how does Tactical fit into this roster of veterans who are there to like kind of shot call and lead him to success? I think there's a lot of excitement there as well. Otherwise, everyone's kind of just middle of the pack. I'm excited for us
yeah,
mostly, to be honest. I
yeah.
think our dynamic roster is going to be really exciting. So to see
Yeah,
on
I mean
play.
that's like the easy answer. I can't say that I'm only excited for us,
Yeah.
but I think that GGS is kind of exciting because my boy Tanner Time is back in the LCS.
True.
So,
Yeah.
so I was super excited to see Tanner back. He's a player that I really loved working with. I absolutely love
Mhm.
coaching Tanner. He's a great teammate. He's a really hard worker, really passionate about the game, and really passionate about self improvement. So
Mhm.
for me, like those are like values that I like empathize with it like really tightly. So I was really pleased to see him back in the LCS because I didn't feel like he was ready to be done. He
Yeah.
just came back from Worlds, and like maybe he's not the best mid laner in the league, but like okay, and like he just came back from Worlds, and now he's not playing in the LCS, so it was
Yeah.
pretty ludicrous for me. So I'm super excited to see him back. I don't necessarily think that GGS has gotten any stronger because of it. Like
Yeah.
I
I
do
mean,
not
that's
expect them to be.
how I feel too.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily expect them to be like a competitive team, but like they'll be top 8, right? Like or mate, I don't know, probably.
Top 8 out of 10.
That's playoffs, right? So we gotta kind of frame
true.
it as that like for summer split, top 8 is playoffs, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my boy Tanner the benefit of the doubt. I think GGS is a top 8 team. I think they're gonna make playoffs for sure.
That's
I'm
a
sure
soft
Ifadera.
take, though, right? I mean,
It's a
considering the
soft take.
other
It's a soft
teams
take
in
for
the
sure.
league.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, like yeah. What's up?
oh no, I totally agree. I think that for sure they're top 8. I mean, considering there's other teams, that just have been kind of laying low, not really making a lot of moves, and
Or making the wrong moves,
yeah,
perhaps.
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want to, kind of go into like who's made the
I
wrong
mean,
moves?
well, I mean, it's probably the right move for them, but I was referencing Dignitas, and
Yeah.
like it's very clear that they just were like offloading pieces of their payroll that they felt like were either crippling the company or just didn't bring enough value to justify keeping. So they clearly were like lowering their payroll with what they did this offseason. I'm not sure that they were really looking to, like, I don't think the goal was to increase their competitive strength. Like, how could it possibly be?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
they could be very like happy with their new position. Like I said, they probably
Mhm.
offloaded a lot of payroll, and like maybe they are operating a lot more comfortably within the LCS. Maybe they're much more healthy now financially as a business, which could be good. But competitively, I think that they're incredibly weak. I don't see them competing for anything other than 10th place against Immortals. It's going to be probably the closest race in the LCS is going to be for 10th place between those two teams. But yeah, I'll say like it is. But
Yeah.
I mean, Cloud9 is exciting too. We didn't talk about them, but there's a team who
Mhm.
made no changes, and
Exactly.
they have all the momentum from winning in spring. And I'm excited to see how they play. They've been like, I know that Vulcan, like I coach at Clutch, and he is just the perennial competitor. Like Vulcan will not stop grinding for any reason, and I think that him and Sven together have this like really OP dynamic where like that like obsessive desire to just grind and be the
Mhm.
best like play off each other, and then they both just like nonstop grind. Like Sven is like
Mhm.
number 1 and number 3 on the server. Vulcan's number 2. Um, and I don't even think they took much of a break in the offseason. I think they've
Yeah.
just been going flat out, which is super impressive. At the same time, it's harder to stay at the top than it is to get there the first time. So, and especially if you're not necessarily treating your body the right way or you're not taking necessary breaks. So I do have questions whether they can sustain it over the whole summer split. And I do think that a lot of what we did right was resting our players and coming back with a fresh attitude. And I think I've never seen our guys more motivated, and I've never seen our guys playing better league. So I'm super excited to match up against Cloud9.
Mhm.
I don't want to give anything away, and I don't want to hype it up too much, but it's going to be a fun match in week 2. As long as we keep improving like we are, I think it's going to be super, super competitive between us and Cloud9 in the split.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that the split, there's just so much to like look forward to. I'm just, I guess for me personally, as a person who's like more interested in like, obviously I'm very interested in competitive as well, but I have a taste for brand
Hmm.
too. It's interesting. Like, let's take Dignitas for example. Like,
Okay.
from my perspective, it's like they're not really doing either or, right? They're not being a very competitive team and building a roster with whatever budget they had, but they also aren't like very brand building. Like they have rookies that don't really have much following, so that's like going to be interesting to see for me. Like what's their take? Like what are they trying to make happen? As well as some other teams. But I think your points on Cloud9 are 100%. I agree. I think that they're extremely competitive. You don't break wait it's not wait you don't fix what's not broken. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that they're running that momentum to like really get first. But the thing is, we have a lot to prove here, and I think that that's really fueling our guys right now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for the season to start. And when you guys
Mhm.
watch this, it's either going to be like a couple days before or a couple days after, I think, our match against 100 Thieves. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I just want to get to practice.
Actually, I want to ask you a little bit about this. What's your take on our first week matchups?
2-0, 100%. I don't see how it can't be 2-0. I think that we're going to start off the season strong this year compared to last year.
Hmm.
Not only because strength of schedule, I think 100 Thieves and CLG are both totally like beatable teams for us.
Yeah.
They're both teams that we could like handle very comfortably in spring. But also, like I said, we're playing some of the best league we've ever played right now, and we're having some of the best practice we've ever had. So regardless of the strength of schedule, I would be very confident in this opening weekend, no matter who we were facing. And it just so happens that we're facing teams that I don't necessarily think have great matchups against us.
Hmm.
I don't want to get too much into it, but I think that there's some pretty serious mismatches in both of these games, and I think that we're going to be able to exploit that.
For sure. And I kind of want to ask this as well. So you said that Immortals and Dignitas will be battling for 10th. Does that mean Counter Logic Gaming has gotten better? Or does that
Yeah,
mean oh, okay. I wanted this clear.
I think so. I mean, it's a tough. I guess it's kind of a tough ask, but I did think that CLG was performing much better with Pobelter last year
I
after they
agree.
made that addition. Not even necessarily because he's a better individual player, which I think he might be. I've never coached Pobelter, but he's somebody that I would like to coach because from what I know about him, he's a student of the game. He thinks about the game at a very high level, and he's got a great mind for strategy. And in season 10, the mid laner is a moving piece, and the mid laner is really responsible for a lot of the tactics, especially in the opening of the game, and even in the mid game as well. So I think that having somebody like Pobelta or somebody who's intelligent and can see the game at a high level as your moving piece in the mid lane is actually really important right now in this meta. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, his communication with his jungler is going to be stronger. His communication with his support is going to be stronger. So basically, all of the team tactics that involve your mid laner, I think CLG will be stronger now than they were before. And for those reasons, I do think that CLG is a stronger team with Pobelta than they were with Crown.
Wow, so you think you're going to see them in playoffs?
Yes, top 8 is
Top
playoffs.
8, yeah.
I mean, it's like so. Like we should think like top 8. Yeah, like whatever they're gonna make top 8, but top 8 isn't really like it doesn't mean anything. So I think we have to think of like a new criteria for what we mean by like a strong team. Because in the past we could just kind of be like, they're a playoff team, but maybe they're not the best. But now that qualifier, it doesn't mean anything because I think the variance in like your placing in a split is usually like 2 places. Like at minimum, which means that if the difference between 10th place and 8th place is only 2 places, like you're not even getting away from the variance, right? So it doesn't, it literally means nothing. If you're 10th place or 8th place, it's like you could have just gotten a little bit unlucky or a little bit lucky. So yeah, I don't think that it's impressive to make playoffs in Summer Split. I think that what's impressive is going to be the run. Like if you start in 8th place and you win your first match, you win your second match, and you're working all the way through, that's going to be super impressive. I think it's sort of akin to the gauntlet, especially since there's the double elimination you have to traverse. So I'm interested to see what kind of happens and like what the reception is for playoffs, because I hope that there's just not like smashes when the 3 seed meets the 8 seed. But yeah, I guess it depends how the seeding shakes out for the regular season, but we could have some serious mismatches for week 1 of playoffs, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the nature of having a tournament bracket like that.
Yeah.
And as much as it doesn't make the matches as exciting, I think it is like the most competitively fair over time. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but having a double elimination bracket gives people a little bit more leeway and really showcases like the best teams.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. I think.
I'm
Yeah,
like a little bit like, am I like totally off here? Because you're the one
No.
like has the expertise.
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And it's twofold, right? I think that being able to play for the first round bye for first and second place is really, really impactful, actually, because if you get that bye, I think you're only like 2 best of 3s or best of 5s, best of series. I think you're 2 best of series away from the finals. And you have like advantage in side selection, you have advantage in your matchup seeding. So these first 2 seeds, as long as you're executing at a high level, are such an easy track to finals compared to everything below. Not only that, but also the nature of double elimination is even if like you do make a mistake as like the 1 through 4 seeds, like if you're like a top seed and you do drop a game, you're not out of the tournament and you can still like essentially go into the gauntlet and like prove that you are the best team or even improve to become the best team. Because something I think is really or I'm not sure it's underrated, but something that we need to talk about is that the Gauntlet team would often do well at Worlds. Not Clutch, we went 06, but I think Cloud9, when they were the Gauntlet team, like they did well at Worlds, and all Gauntlet teams have self-reported that like it's huge for them. The amount of best of 5s that you play through Gauntlet, like the preparation you get playing on stage is massive. Like those high pressure best of series teach you so much as a player, and they teach you so much as a coaching staff too when it comes to how you're making adjustments through draft in the best of series. So more series can only be good for us. It can only be good for international competition, and I think that these changes were nothing but positive.
Yeah, totally agree. So, I mean, we've, talked through the breadth of, kind of how we think people are placing and how teams are expected to do. Who do you think is going to have the most positive change, and who's going to have the most negative change coming from spring to summer?
Most positive change. I mean, I think that we made one of the most positive changes. I think the addition to Huni to our lineup was a fantastic add, not only just from the flexibility it gives us in 2020, where we can now have 2 packages that we can use throughout the regular season and in playoffs as well. When we can bring a roster of 7 into playoffs and we can actually pivot in the middle of a series, depending on side selection or depending on matchup, depending on our opponent. This is some serious flexibility that teams are going to have to be aware of. Like, not only are they going to have totally different champion pools between the rosters, but there's going to be totally different play styles and basically a totally different look between these packages. And I think that is something that's going to make us very dangerous as we get going towards playoffs and also as we go towards international competition as well. And this isn't even talking about 2021 and what could happen there with the flexibility that Huni becoming a resident gives us as far as import structure. also just having Kumo be able to work with Huni, they practice 1v1s together, they talk about matchups together. Like this is just, invaluable education for Kumo and just an invaluable mentor for him as he grows as a player. So
Mhm.
I was super, super excited to sign Huni. He's absolutely worth it. And yeah, pat us on the back a little bit. I think we made one of the steals of the offseason, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Biggest losers, I don't really know. Like I've been hearing rumors that like Immortals is like kind of like blowing things up and like they're not like starting like who like maybe you'd expect to be starting, and like we'll see what happens there. I mean, TSM is probably the biggest loser when it comes to like PR and reputation of the offseason. Like they're
Yeah.
getting absolutely dragged. And I mean, for kind of good reason. I think that it's not so straightforward that they upgraded their roster just because you put in Double Lift. Like,
Yeah.
yes, he's a North American player, but Kabe is a fantastic player. If you saw his performance at Worlds last year, like that's the reason he was so highly coveted in the offseason. Like this was a very effective carry player on the
Mhm.
international stage on a team like Splice. And they lost Dardock and they're putting in Spica. So like even if you could argue that Double Lift is better than Kabi, which I would dispute, right? Like I would dispute that as
Mhm.
fact. But even if you let's assume that's true, like I think TSM still downgraded because like I from when I saw Spica, like I did not think he was a very like LCS capable jungler. I even in like our series back when I was coaching in Clutch, there, I'll never forget, he was playing Skarner. There was like a decisive team fight around Baron, and he just ran around and didn't even use his ultimate. They first picked the Skarner away from us in game 5, and he just looked completely lost. And I felt so bad for him. He clearly wasn't ready for that moment. He wasn't ready for that pick. And unless he's improved dramatically in Academy and like is coming in as a completely different player, I think TSM has big problems. Like not only that, but I'm not sure their support staff could even handle Double Lift Bjergsen. Like from the outside, I would bet you a lot of money that like the coach of this team is Double Lift or Bjergsen or both. Like I would not expect whatever. I don't even think they've made a public move for their head coach. I'm not
No,
sure they've
I
even
don't think they
gave
have.
someone that title. So like maybe Bjergsen is owner, coach, manager, CS:GO manager, CS:GO coach, and CFO all at the same time. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I think we'll see what happens with TSM. But I think that they stand to be the biggest loser of this offseason. But it's based on their performance, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I would love to like kind of look back in the next couple of our episodes and like kind of review what we picked here. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we're assuming because of the off season. I would really like to see how this plays out because this might be the most dramatic season of League of Legends
It's
ever.
pretty hype. Yeah,
It
it's
is
pretty
pretty
hype.
hype, so I'm really
I'm
excited.
excited. Yeah,
Well,
me too.
that concludes our episode of Chaotic Neutral for today. I want to say thank you to Connor for taking the time to
My
speak with
pleasure,
me.
as always. Super fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to kind of talk about all this, and hopefully you're seeing this and we're not completely incorrect. So, no, for sure. I
No
really
chance. No
appreciate it.
chance.
No chance. We're 100% right all the time. So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you the next episode. Thanks. Bye.
See ya.